Hello everyone, welcome back to English 252. In today's video, we are going to dive deep into the incredible life story of Steve Jobs, the man who started from almost nothing and went on to build one of the most powerful and innovative companies in history. Apple. This will be a journey through his childhood, his struggles, his failures, his biggest successes, and the legacy he left behind. Get ready for a full story filled with lessons, inspiration, and motivation. Let's begin. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. His biological parents were Joanne Skeebel, a young American woman, and Abdul Fattah Jundali, a student from Syria. Because they were not married and faced many challenges, they made the heartbreaking decision to place their baby up for adoption. The infant who would one day change technology forever began life as an unwanted child. He was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a humble working-class couple who promised to raise him with love and provide him with an education. Paul, who worked as a machinist and repaired cars, played a huge role in shaping young Steve's character. He often brought his son into the garage and taught him how to use tools, how to build, and most importantly, how to care about every small detail in what he created. Paul would say, "Even the parts people can't see must be beautiful," and that lesson stayed with Steve throughout his life, inspiring him to build technology that was as elegant inside as it was outside. Clara, his adoptive mother, gave him patience, warmth, and support, especially as Steve grew into a curious and sometimes rebellious boy. He was not the kind of child who quietly followed rules. He questioned authority, challenged teachers, and always asked why. This restless spirit sometimes caused trouble in school, but it also planted the seed of an innovator who would one day refuse to accept limits. Growing up in Silicon Valley, surrounded by engineers and dreamers, Steve absorbed the environment of creativity and invention. Even as a boy, he showed signs of a mind that would never settle for ordinary answers, a mind that would later reshape the world.
As Steve Jobs grew older, his curiosity about the world around him became impossible to ignore. Unlike other children who were satisfied with toys or games, Steve wanted to take things apart to see how they worked. Radios, televisions, and small electronic gadgets often ended up in pieces on his bedroom floor, only for Steve to put them back together again, sometimes improved, sometimes not, but always with new knowledge gained. This habit of exploration did not come from boredom, but from a burning hunger to understand how things functioned. Living in Mountain View, California, he was in the heart of what would later be called Silicon Valley. Many of his neighbors were engineers working for companies like Hewlett-Packard, and this environment was like a giant classroom for him. He would visit local technology clubs and spend hours watching people build and design machines, fascinated by the possibilities hidden inside circuits and wires. His father, Paul, encouraged this passion by showing him how to handle tools, how to recognize precision, and how to focus on craftsmanship. This was not just about building objects. It was about building discipline and a respect for quality. Steve's mother, Clara, nurtured his mind by teaching him to read early, and soon he was devouring books on science and electronics, sometimes far beyond his age level. In school, Steve was bright but often restless, uninterested in following strict rules or memorizing facts that seemed unimportant to him. Teachers noticed that while he could be disruptive at times, he had an extraordinary ability to grasp complex ideas quickly. His rebellious personality and sharp mind made him different from his classmates, but it was this difference that prepared him to challenge the normal way of doing things later in life. As a teenager, Steve met a fellow tech enthusiast, Steve Wozniak, who was older but shared the same deep love for electronics. This friendship would prove to be one of the most important relationships of his life. While Wozniak had the brilliance of engineering, Jobs had the vision to see how technology could reach ordinary people. Together, they were destined to create something far greater than themselves.
When the time came for Steve Jobs to attend college, his adoptive parents kept the promise they had made to his biological mother. They sent him to Reed College in Oregon, one of the most expensive private colleges in the United States at the time. For Paul and Clara Jobs, this was a sacrifice as they were not wealthy. They used their savings, hoping to give Steve the best education possible. But Steve quickly realized that the traditional college system was not for him. He found himself bored in classes that didn't spark his creativity, and he was troubled by the financial burden it placed on his parents. After just one semester, he made the bold and frightening decision to drop out. To many people, this looked like failure, like wasted potential. But Steve did not see it that way. By dropping out, he gained the freedom to explore the subjects that truly fascinated him without being tied to a strict curriculum. He stayed on campus, sleeping on the floors of friends' dorm rooms, collecting empty Coke bottles for money, and eating free meals at a local Hare Krishna temple. It was a hard and humble life. But Steve never saw it as suffering, he saw it as a journey of discovery. One of the classes he audited during this time was calligraphy. Most people thought this subject was useless in a world driven by science and technology. But Steve was captivated by the beauty of fonts, the precision of spacing, and the elegance of design. He did not know it at the time, but this love for typography would later inspire the groundbreaking design of the Macintosh computer, the first computer with beautiful fonts and artistic presentation. This is where Steve's genius began to show. He could take something that seemed irrelevant and connect it to a bigger vision of the future. By refusing to walk the same path as everyone else, Steve Jobs learned that life is not about following the rules society gives you, it is about following your curiosity and trusting that the dots will connect later. Years afterward, in a famous speech at Stanford University, he told graduates, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward." This lesson was born in his college years, where dropping out was not the end of his education, but the beginning of his true learning. After leaving college, Steve Jobs returned to California, full of energy, curiosity, and a vision that he couldn't shake. It was during this time that he reconnected with Steve Wozniak, a brilliant engineer who shared the same passion for electronics. Wozniak was a quiet genius, someone who could design and build computers effortlessly, but he lacked the desire to market or sell them. Jobs, on the other hand, had a unique ability to see beyond the machine, to imagine how a computer could become a personal tool, something every person could use in their home, office, or school. This combination of Wozniak's engineering brilliance and Jobs' vision was destined to change the world. In 1976, in the humble surroundings of Jobs' parents' garage, the two Steves began to build the first Apple computer. It was not just a hobby or a project, it was a mission. They worked long hours, often late into the night, soldering circuits, assembling boards, and testing designs. Money was tight. They borrowed parts, reused materials, and sold some of their possessions just to keep the project alive. Despite the hardships, there was an energy in the garage that was electric. Jobs had the ability to dream beyond the limitations of their small workspace. He imagined a world where technology was personal, approachable, and beautifully designed. Wozniak's engineering genius allowed those dreams to take form. The first Apple computer was simple compared to modern machines, but it was revolutionary at the time. It gave ordinary people access to computing power, something that had previously been reserved for scientists, universities, and large corporations. The creation of Apple was not just about making money. It was about creating a new future. Jobs' relentless energy, attention to detail, and unwavering vision pushed Wozniak to turn brilliant ideas into reality. That small garage in California became the birthplace of a revolution, and the two young men were about to change the face of technology forever. From these humble beginnings, the world would eventually witness the rise of one of the most powerful, creative, and influential companies in history, Apple. After the creation of the first Apple computer, Jobs and Wozniak worked tirelessly to bring their product to market. Their Apple II, released in 1977, became one of the first highly successful mass-produced personal computers. It was innovative, user-friendly, and beautifully designed, making it accessible to ordinary people rather than just scientists or large companies. Apple started small, with Jobs and Wozniak selling computers out of Jobs' garage and local electronics stores. But soon they were attracting the attention of investors, who saw the potential in their vision. Jobs' charisma and salesmanship complemented Wozniak's technical genius perfectly. Together, they formed a partnership that could turn even the wildest ideas into reality. The success of the Apple II transformed them from garage inventors to rising stars in Silicon Valley. Jobs, however, was never satisfied. He didn't just want success, he wanted to change the world. He dreamed of making technology that was not only functional, but also beautiful, intuitive, and revolutionary. This ambition would guide every decision he made, from design to marketing, and eventually led to the creation of the Macintosh, the first personal computer with a graphical user interface that redefined how people interacted with technology. The rise of Apple was not merely about selling machines. It was about inspiring people to think differently, to embrace innovation, and to believe that technology could enhance human creativity. Despite Apple's growing success, tensions began to rise within the company. Jobs' intensity, perfectionism, and sometimes abrasive personality created conflicts with other executives and the board of directors. While his vision drove innovation, it also made him difficult to work with, and disagreements over the direction of the company reached a breaking point. In 1985, in a shocking and deeply emotional turn of events, Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he had founded. Being fired from Apple was devastating. He had poured his heart, soul, and every ounce of energy into building the company, only to be rejected by the very people he trusted. Many would have seen this as the end of a career, but Jobs saw it differently. He later said, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me, losing." Apple gave him freedom to start over, to take risks he might not have taken before, and to explore new ventures that would ultimately shape his legacy. Instead of wallowing in defeat, he used the experience as fuel, turning heartbreak into motivation and disappointment into opportunity. This period of exile became a defining moment in his life, teaching him resilience, perspective, and the importance of following one's own vision, no matter how many obstacles appear. After leaving Apple, Jobs did not slow down. He founded a new company called Next, which focused on creating advanced computers for education and business. Although Next did not achieve massive commercial success, it produced innovative technology that would later become the foundation for future Apple products. Around the same time, Jobs acquired a small animation studio called Pixar. Through Pixar, he revolutionized the world of animation, producing films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles, which became milestones in cinematic storytelling. Jobs demonstrated that his creativity was not limited to computers. It extended to movies, design, and culture itself. With Next and Pixar, he proved that failure at one venture does not define a person's potential, and that taking risks in new areas can lead to unprecedented success. Jobs' ability to see value in what others overlooked, to nurture talent, and to insist on excellence in every detail allowed him to build companies that not only succeeded financially, but also changed the way people experience the world. In 1997, Apple was struggling. The company Jobs had founded years earlier was on the verge of collapse, losing market share, direction, and confidence. In a dramatic twist of fate, Steve Jobs returned to Apple, first as an advisor and soon as CEO. His return marked one of the most legendary comebacks in business history. Jobs quickly took control, cutting unnecessary projects, streamlining operations, and focusing the company's energy on innovation. Under his leadership, Apple introduced products that combined simplicity, elegance, and functionality, proving once again that Jobs had an unmatched ability to see what the world needed before the world knew it. His vision transformed Apple from a failing company into one of the most valuable and admired brands in the world, and it solidified his place as a pioneer whose ideas could not be ignored. In 2001, Apple introduced the iPod, a small device that would change the music industry forever. Jobs believed that technology should not just be powerful, it should also be simple, beautiful, and intuitive. The iPod allowed people to carry thousands of songs in their pocket, redefining how music was consumed and shared. Beyond its technical innovation, the iPod symbolized a cultural shift, turning Apple into a lifestyle brand and Jobs into a visionary whose ideas transcended technology. It demonstrated his ability to combine functionality with design in a way that connected deeply with human experience. Music was no longer just something we listened to. It became a part of our daily lives, portable, personal, and empowering. The greatest triumph of Steve Jobs' career came in 2007 with the launch of the iPhone. This device was not just a phone. It was a computer, a music player, a camera, and a window to the internet, all in one small, elegant package. It completely changed the way people communicate, work, and live. Jobs' insistence on perfection, attention to detail, and vision for what technology could be allowed the iPhone to set the standard for smartphones worldwide. Later, the iPad further transformed computing, providing a versatile tool for education, business, and entertainment. These innovations solidified Jobs' legacy as someone who not only understood technology but understood humanity, how people live, connect, and create in the modern world. Behind his legendary successes, Steve Jobs faced one of his greatest challenges, pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed in 2004, he underwent surgery and treatment, but the disease gradually affected his health. Even as his body weakened, he continued to work, innovate, and inspire. Jobs' approach to life and work during this period was extraordinary. He refused to let illness define him, and he remained committed to his vision, pushing Apple to continue creating revolutionary products. His perspective on life became even clearer. Time is limited, and it must be used wisely. He once said, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make big choices in life." Jobs' courage, determination, and clarity of purpose during these final years left a profound lesson for the world about the value of focus, passion, and perseverance. Steve Jobs passed away on October 5, 2011, but his influence on technology, design, and culture is eternal. His story teaches us that failure is not the end, that curiosity and vision are more important than following the crowd, and that one person's dream can reshape the world. Jobs' legacy is not just the iPhone, the iPad, or the Macintosh. It is the belief that imagination, combined with relentless effort, can create something extraordinary. His life reminds us that we should pursue our passions, embrace risks, and never settle for mediocrity. Steve Jobs' journey from an adopted child to a college dropout, from failure to unprecedented success, and finally to a visionary who changed the world, will continue to inspire generations to come. His story is a tribute to creativity, resilience, and the transformative power of believing in oneself. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. Steve Jobs' story is not just about technology, but about vision, resilience, and the power of believing in yourself even when the world doubts you. I hope his journey inspired you to think bigger, to dream without limits, and to keep pushing forward no matter how many challenges stand in your way. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring and motivational stories. Remember, your future is in your hands. And like Steve Jobs once said, the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. See you in the next video.